Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Yeah, a lot of excellent information from Laura. I guess the thing now is how do we pull all it together? So the idea here was just to talk about a few of the tools that we use in GrainCorp. So we regularly get asked, what should we be feeding at this time of year and right throughout the season? And I guess it really comes down to how do we get the feed converted efficiently and what determines milk response? But the key things is obviously genetic makeup of the cow and the stage of lactation. Big thing though is cow health, rumen health, the integrity of the liver, and the mineral status. So these are the important things that we need to be considering when we look at feed conversion efficiency. But historically, we can actually go back and look at production indicators to see how well we've done in this area. First one is peak milk. How quick do we get to peak milk? How high did we get? And how long do we hold that peak production? Second one's body condition lost. How much have we lost and over what time frame? And the duration, the level of production performance. So it's looking at your lactation curve for the whole season. So historically, we can get a very good idea on what the nutritional status is in the management on that farm. And obviously, another thing that we look at is fertility status. You know, what was our submission rate, conception rate, empty rate in a 6-week in calf? That tells us historically a lot about your farming system. Last but not least is diet, and I've left this down the bottom because basically it's that rumen health and the integrity of the liver and the mineral status that really sets us up for good feed conversion. And Laura's told you all about the diet, so we don't need to get into that. But one of the tools that we use, I'll start with diet, is basically Diet Check. Now, that's a ration review program. So this has a whole library of all the feeds and the breakdowns. In Diet Check, we can load into that your cow, the cow condition, the breed, stage of lactation, what else you're feeding on farm. And we can have a really good look at what is out of balance, what we might need to add. We can look at macro and micro minerals, and we can get a really good snapshot of what's happening on your farm on that day. So we'd encourage guys to, throughout the season, do some ration reviews, particularly as your past changes and we progress through the season. But one tool I do want to talk about is our tracker prediction and monitoring tools. Now, quite often, if I ask a farmer, how are you doing? Often the response is, well, compared to last year, or hey, compared to my neighbours, we're doing X, so we're doing okay. With Tracker, what we really want to do is identify what your farm's capable of and what your cows are capable of in that environment with your system, and where they should be tracking throughout each stage of lactation. So if I took a bit of an analogy to show you what Tracker is a bit like, if you wanted to take up a game of golf, you could go and buy a set of golf clubs, you could get out on the fairway there and you could have a game of golf and you could score yourself at the end of the day. And you could do that each week and just see how you're going golf-wise. But if you took a lesson, now today they can actually sit in front of a screen, they can video you, so they can tell you how far you're driving, what your loft is, what your backspin is, how far that ball's traveled, how far it's rolled, and then they'll actually video you. And they'll look at your stance, how you're standing, how you're holding the club, how you're swinging, how's your follow through, are you using your hands, blah, 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 blah. And they can drill in and they can actually start identifying key things that you can do to change your game of golf and make a significant increase or improvement on your game. So if you think of Tracker is very much the same. If we've loaded all your data and we know what your cows are capable of, where they should be at each stage of the season, and we can drill in just the same way as a coach can teaching golf. So we can go and have a look at your protein percent, your fat percent, fat to protein ratio, your milk urea levels, dry matter intakes, energy requirements, and what level your cows are producing it. And we can drill in to see where those inefficiencies are or the things that we can do to improve. So when we look at Tracker, this is a program that can highlight where your milk and income are being lost. It's then easier to value the possible solutions objectively. Now, I've been working with Tracker for a good 10 years and looking at hundreds and hundreds of farmers, and the information that we're getting out of that is very, very insightful. Farmers only know what farmers know. And I use it, if I use another analogy, let's say you play golf and you think you've got a swing that's like Tiger Woods. And then somebody films you and they play it back to you in slow motion. It could look very ugly. So what it starts doing is highlighting what maybe you don't know that you're doing wrong and the things that you can improve on. So look, what we know from facts is that the Tracker program, the average farmer can pick up another 27% more milk based on their peak production. So the big issue is lack of production persistency post-peak and some big drops through the summer months. So how do we pull all that together? What's a game plan that we can bring effectively what you're being coached on into the bigger picture? And I'd recommend a feed plan, not just for the summer, but a plan that looks holistically at your whole farming system. There's lots of feed plans out there at the moment, but a lot of the feed plans don't target potential production or potential margins. Okay, they often don't correct the existing limitations within that farm. They're often based on replicating historical data, but not identifying the limiting issues. So when feed planning, look at the what ifs, like the Waikato's just experienced a severe drought period. What contingency plans or insurance policies can you put in place to safeguard these extremes? But more importantly, much more importantly, what are the biggest limiting factors on your farm? Where are the potential gains? And how do we plan for that? So it's more about going back to that insight that Tracker gives us. What are the things we're not quite doing right that we can now transpose into a feed plan? Good feed plan should aim to maximize your genetic game and your farm's capabilities within your farming system. So if we just take a quick look at a feed plan that we do, it looks at what we know the farm's capable of, we know what the cows are capable of, and we're simply filling the gaps. But that's not all you need. You need to be looking at, if we implement this, what are the margins that we can make, and what should we come out with at the end of the day if we follow this program? If you're really keen on chucking data in, and some of the farmers are, you've actually got the ability in Tracker to measure feed conversion efficiency. So feed conversion efficiency gives us a measure of how many grams of milk solids we get from each kg of dry matter offered. This is important as we get paid for milk, and all feeds cost money, including your grass. We should be targeting over 100 grams of milk solids per kg of dry matter for most of the productive season. And it's the same as 10 kgs of dry matter for 1 kg of milk solid. But just as importantly, we should be looking at our margins. There's no point in feeding heaps of feed or very expensive feed unless we know we're making a margin. So in Tracker, we have that ability to track those on a weekly basis to make sure we're converting our feed efficiently and we're making a nice healthy margin with it. So I guess if I was to summarize this up, we've got Tracker that works pretty much like a coaching program. It analyzes what you're currently doing and what you have done, and it can guide you. It's almost like if you're out playing golf, having a coach beside you showing you how you could do each step of the way. The diet check is a great way to take a real snapshot and fine-tune it to see where we're at. And then the feed plan overall takes all our coaching and analysis and puts it into a plan that's specific to your farm. So, hey, look, that was just a quick overview of some of the tools we use, but if there's any questions on that, please fire away.
On that note, are there any questions at the moment for either Ken or Laura? At this stage, I can't see any. However, if anyone does come up with some questions that at a later stage, you're more than welcome to contact us directly. We can get in touch with either, obviously, Ken or Laura. I'd like to thank Laura and Ken for your time, and thank everyone else who has been on this webinar. I hope you got a lot out of it. Like I said earlier, we will be posting this later up online, so you will be able to review it again. And yes, feel free to contact us if you have any questions. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
See you. Thank you. Bye-bye.